The Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by Reaper Apparel Company. Reaper Apparel offers a casual line of superb fit, finish, and comfort. We design for those who refuse to die slowly and choose to live untamed. For those who aren't afraid to face the dark, for the ones that thrive in it, and for those who can appreciate life through a grim lens. That's Reaper Apparel Company. Go to the link in the description of this episode, use the promo code Mike Bono, and get 10% off. Also, the Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by Tactical Brotherhood, all American-made apparel, which helps support the Second Amendment. You can also find all this in the description of this episode with the link Tactical Brotherhood. Part of every proceed does go to helping veterans. It is a very good cause. All American-made products made right here in Minnesota. Go and check them out. Use the promo code Patriot15 to get 15% off your purchase. The Ride Home Rants podcast wants to thank you for listening and let everybody know that we do offer monthly subscriptions to help support the show in other ways other than listening and downloading each episode. What you will get with each subscription is you will get bonus episodes that aren't released to everybody. You will also have a chance to ask me anything each and every month where I will put out a special episode just to answer your questions. You will also get more exclusive content that is not released to everybody. To subscribe to the show, go and click on the link in the description of this episode, and I look forward to your added support and to help us keep this show going. The Ride Home Rants podcast is also brought to you by Buddy's Beard Care. Buddy's Beard Care provides premium men's grooming products at an affordable price. Products are made in Ohio, and Buddy's Beard Care supports local. The majority of our supplies are from other Ohio-based companies. You can find them on social media at Buddy's Beard Care or online at buddysbeardcare.com. Use the promo code BONO15 and he will save you 15%. I've been using these products for a little over 6 months now, and my beard has never felt healthier. It has never grown faster, and according to my wife, it has never felt softer. Also, the Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by former guest of the show in Matt Landowski in Sweet Hands Sports. Elevate their game with Sweet Hands Sports. Our sports gloves are designed for champions, providing ultimate grip and durability. Achieve greatness with every match. Choose Sweet Hands Sports for the winning edge. Grip your victory at sweethandsports.com. Use the promo code BONO10 and he will save you 10%. He has sent me a complimentary pair of golf gloves. They are so comfortable, durable, and breathable. You won't find a better pair of gloves out there. Again, sweethandsports.com, promo code BONO10. Lastly, the Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by Deemed Fit, a clothing company from first responders for first responders. These products are so comfortable. They look great. They have great messages on them. They are provided to support first responders, especially those who worked through COVID. All of the proceeds are going to helping veterans and first responders with their mental and physical health. This is a great cause. I support anything that has to do with our first responders and our veterans. Again, deemedfit.co, promo code Mike Bono will save you 20%. Now, let's start the show.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Ride Home Rants podcast. This is your special guest host, Fitty, and today we bring you the NFL season recap, where we recap the season with 5 fantastic guests talking about everything that happened and what the future may hold. The guests today all come from different backgrounds and in sports, and as fans, they're going to give you a great insight to their opinions on what this season was all about, and it was a surprising season, to say the least. Before we get into the show, make sure you peep all the sponsors in the pre-roll and the post-roll, as they're all small business owners, and we want to show these small business owners support and love, just like they show the Ride Home Rants their support and love. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce our Fab Five, coming to you from all over really the country here. They're going to give you their name, what they currently do or what they've done, and then their favorite non-alcoholic drink. So, Mike, let's start with you.
Hello, Fitty. Mike Worrell here. I've been a lot of places. Coached I'm from Ohio, so I've coached at Ashland University, College of Worcester, Illinois College, Bethany for a couple years, and currently I'm sitting in Jacksonville, Illinois, just north of St. Louis. Not really doing much of anything. And I was a Mountain Dew guy for years. Now I've switched to Dr. Pepper cream soda.
Nice. Okay. And for people that don't know, I'm going to brag on Mike here for a second. Mike is the only coach in NCAA history, regardless of classification, to coach over 400 basketball games, have the national slam dunk champion, regardless of classification, and be the only coach from a Division III school to beat a Division I school. So Mike has that over Dean Smith,
that's awesome.
Coach K, Coach Rupp, Calhoun, everybody. Mike Worrell has him beat on that. Now, JJ, you have to follow that up.
Well, that's a tough act to follow. JJ Phillips, live in Austintown, Ohio. Currently working as a quality inspector at Exaloy. And my favorite drink would have to be either strawberry or raspberry lemonade.
Okay. Drew?
What's up, guys? Drew McLaughlin here. Currently a fourth grade ELA and social studies teacher, and I'm currently the offensive coordinator at Lovell High School. And my favorite non-alcoholic drink gotta be I'm basic Coke. I'm a Coke guy.
Okay. All right, Coach Garf.
How you doing? Bill Garvey. I'm currently the offensive coordinator at Thomas More in Kentucky, really Cincinnati if you're, being specific to it. Favorite non-alcoholic drink? I guess I'll say Diet Mountain Dew, but I've grown to Celsius now because I'm getting old and trendy.
Coach, you're not old, man. I've only known you for almost 20 years now, so you're not getting old.
Now you're making me older.
That makes me old. And Coach Garvey's too humbled to admit this, but as an offensive coordinator at Bethany College during his time there, he set close to 100 school records individually and as a team. So I'm going to brag on Coach Garv there a little bit. And then Dave, you want to round this out here?
Yeah, hey, Dave Frank. I'm the offensive line coach at McDowell High School in Erie, Pennsylvania. And, my favorite non-alcoholic drink has to be coffee, preferably black and strong, and definitely not any sort of cream or sugar, any of that stuff, just black.
Okay. My favorite non-alcoholic drink, I'm pretty plain. I drink water and I drink coffee. There really ain't much in between there. So that's kind of always been me. So we're going to go Mike, JJ, Drew, Coach Garv, and then Coach Frank rounding us with the questions here. So really first question I want to ask you guys, Mike, you're going to start us out because you were on the Super Bowl preview show. Were you surprised at the results of the Super Bowl with how the Chiefs got dominated by the Eagles?
Yes and no. I think I predicted that an Eagles win, but I also predicted an Eagles win going down to the wire. So not surprised that they won, but surprised at the domination of the game that day.
Okay. JJ, what do you think?
Yeah, I was surprised. I was expecting the Chiefs to win in a close game. I was really surprised on how I knew the Chiefs would go in and try to stop the run, which they did. I wasn't expecting Jalen Hurts to have such a big game.
Okay, Drew, what was your thoughts of the game?
Yeah, I was really surprised. When you have a chance to do history and three-peat and all that, and to come out the way they did, completely flat, was almost shocking to me in a sense. I knew it would be a good game. The Eagles had a loaded roster, but to have the chance to make history and the way they came out was kind of really shocking to me.
What about you, Coach Garf?
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm shocked about the winner. I think it's the Super Bowl. I think it can go either way, but certainly the dominance of the one team, or I guess lack of competitiveness in that game, I think was more the surprising aspect of the whole thing.
What about you, Coach Frank?
Yeah, so the Eagles had the formula to beat the Chiefs, and that's being able to only rush four, and their front four are tremendous in Philadelphia, and they were able to control the ball on offense. The time of possession was almost 2-1, and that's the recipe to beat Pat Mahomes. Keep him off the field, and kudos to Andy Reid. They've been keeping it together with popsicle sticks and duct tape all season long, with close, less than one score victories all year long. And they just ran into a big bully in the Super Bowl.
And I was thinking about this watching the game. And Patrick Mahomes' 2 Super Bowl losses were of just utter devastation, where he just really, really could not elevate them to overcome Tom Brady and the Bucs, and then the Eagles and Jalen Hurts. So for me, I think then we're not going to get into this topic, but I think this is a damper on Mahomes, because he couldn't elevate them and dominate the way, to an extent, Tom Brady did in Super Bowls, but to what Joe Montana did during his thrashings of other teams when he was quarterback in the 49ers. So I think to an extent, maybe it might have, tarnished what Mahomes has done, and shown that he can't elevate other people around him. He just makes them better, if that makes sense. Second question, going off of that Super Bowl, Nick Sirianni in 4 seasons has 2 NFC Championship appearances, 2 Super Bowl appearances, 1 Super Bowl win, 2 NFC East titles. Where does Nick Sirianni rank right now in the NFL as a coach? And Mike, I know you're going to say what you're going to say, but let's all hear it.
I'm going to stick to my usual, Fitty. Right now, he's the best. Mm-hmm. But after next season, going into the Super Bowl preview, Andy Reid was the greatest of all time. And Mahomes is one of the greatest quarterbacks. They're the top 2 or 3 in each. But so right now, Sirianni is number 1.
Okay. JJ, what are your thoughts on this?
The top coaches coaching right now in the league.
Yeah, if you compare them to the 32 head coaches right now.
I'll put him in the top 5. I would still have Reid above him, a couple other coaches above him, because that Eagles team is just, its stack is loaded on both sides of the ball. So he's top 5.
Okay. What do you think, Drew?
Yeah, he's definitely top 5. You can't deny what he's done. His like you said, all his accolades that he has, you can't deny it. I will say, the people say Ryan Day was born on third base. I think Nick Sirianni was born halfway to home. He really inherited a great roster, and it'd be hard not to mess that up. But he did it. You got to give him the credit. So top 5.
Okay, what do you say, Coach Garv?
As much as it pains me to say this, because of the connection to it, I agree with Mike. He's the best one right now. Because, again, I think it's a little bit more than people give credit for. The management of those situations and those rosters, right? And certainly the media piece of it. Everyone was calling him how bad he was. He almost got fired last year. Guy just won a Super Bowl. Went to one 3 years ago, whatever it was. And managing those players and managing 2 guys that they paid a ton of money, and all of a sudden they sign some guy and they're running the ball over close to 30 times a game, and those guys aren't getting it, and everyone wants to blame the quarterback, and that didn't tear apart the locker room. That's a lot of work right there, and that's a hell of a job.
Okay. Well, and what are your thoughts on this, Coach Frank?
Yeah, so, I think NFL is a what have you done for me lately kind of league. And I think Sirianni's got to be below all those guys that have the pedigree of doing this over a long period of time. Guys like Harbaugh and guys like Reid, and even a guy like Mike Tomlin, who's never had a losing season. Because if you look at Philadelphia, sure, you had a guy like Doug Peterson came in, won a Super Bowl with a backup quarterback, and then they ran him out of there a short time later. Sirianni was 2-2 after 4 games this year. He had to shave his head and rally the troops and get everything put back together just to make the run this year. And they only lost 1 game after that. So I say good on him. He's on a great career trajectory. I don't know with his style, his fire of coaching, if that's something that's got the sort of longevity that can match some of these other guys who are have done it for 5, 8, 10, 12 years. So I put him on that next step. He could prove me wrong and come out and win a couple more Super Bowls, but I think right now he's below the rest of those guys.
Okay. And just a fun fact for everybody, if they don't know this, in 4 seasons as a head coach, Nick Sirianni has the most wins in NFL history in those 4 years over all those all-time great coaches. So,
wow.
Yeah, there's your fun fact of the day.
Good
So
stat.
I'm gonna go to this one next, because we kind of mentioned it here. I give Mike Tomlin a lot of flack. I'll be the first one to admit that, and everybody knows that. But I want to talk about this, and we're going to get your guys' opinions. But hear me out on this. So Mike Tomlin, in his 18 years, has 12 playoff appearances. He has 7 AFC North titles that are a record of 103, 183, 107, and 2. So those are kind of the accolades of things. Mike Tomlin has only won a playoff game in 4 out of 12 appearances and 4 out of 18 total seasons. In his Super Bowl championship team, 18 out of 22 starters were drafted or signed by Bill Cowher, including the Super Bowl MVP, Antonio Holmes. He also inherited 5 men who may be in the Hall of Fame, if not will be in the Hall of Fame, and Troy Polamalu, Hines Ward, Big Ben Roethlisberger, Alan Faneca, and potentially James Harrison. Mike Tomlin also has the 3rd worst winning percentage in playoff history, right behind Marty Schottenheimer and Chuck Knox, with a record of 7-11. In Bill Cowher's final 6 seasons with the Steelers, Bill Cowher won 63-32 with 3 AFC Central and North championships, 5 8-8 seasons or better, 3 AFC championship appearances, a Super Bowl win, and 7 playoff wins over 4 appearances, with winning a game each season. With that being said, this is a twofold question. Is Mike Tomlin a top 10 head coach of all time, considering that the following coaches all won 2 or more Super Bowls? Belichick, Reed, Flores, Gibbs, Parcells, Walsh, Seifert, Coughlin, Knoll, Shula, Landry, Lombardi, Jimmy Johnson, and Mike Shanahan. And then these 3 guys have went to 4 Super Bowls but lost all of them. Bud Grant, Dan Reeves with 2 teams, and Mark Levy with 4 in a row. Is Mike Tomlin a top 10 head coach of all time? And should the Steelers have moved on from Mike Tomlin this offseason? Mike?
If everybody didn't already know, Fitty is kind of obsessed with this subject. Tomlin. I can tell you that firsthand. That's firsthand knowledge. I don't know about the rankings, Fitty. I know he's won a lot of games, and he's been in the playoffs a lot of times. To me, that signifies that he's done a good job and coached a lot of good teams, and they're always competitive. And I know you want to talk about Marty Schottenheimer's playoff record. Marty was always competitive, had good teams, was almost always in the playoffs. So I don't know where Tomlin fits on a list, but I know he's probably a Hall of Famer with that many wins, that many playoff appearances. And I'm just one that doesn't base how great a coach is off that one big game, that Super Bowl game. I mean, there's a lot of other stuff that goes into being a great coach, in my opinion. And I'm not a Steelers fan, so I have no opinion if they should move on from him or not. I know what answer you'd like for me to give.
No, I just want you to give your honest answer. But I will throw out this. This is also the Steelers' longest playoff drought without a win since pre-Chuck Knoll in the early 1960s.
So you're saying they're in a drought of some sort?
They're definitely in a long drought.
I'm still not sure what the question was, but I don't know where to rank him.
And it was is he just top 10? Is he top 10? Yes or no? And then should the Steelers have fired him? Yes or no?
I'm not that close and that involved with the Steelers situation. Being at our Browns, we have enough to worry about, being 3-14 this year.
Don't worry, Mike. We're getting to the Browns here soon.
Okay. All right. Top 10, I don't know. I just know he's won a lot of games, and he's probably on a list of, I'm sure he's top 20 all time in wins already.
He's 12. He's 12.
I don't know if I really answered you, but that's my answer.
Okay. JJ, what do you got?
Well, I am a Steelers fan, so I would say he's not a top 10 coach. I'll put him in the top 15, top 20, somewhere in there. but not top 10 right now. And I definitely don't think we should have fired him this offseason. I mean, you got to have somebody to replace him. And I mean, we have winning seasons. We're this close to making a good playoff run. We just got to make a few changes, and I think we'll be good.
Okay. What do you got, Drew?
Well, I've known you a long time, and I know you don't like Mike Tomlin, but man, that was deep stuff right there. There's some note taking there. Top 10, I don't know. He's won a Super Bowl. Not too many people can say that. He's probably, if you want to rank him, between 8 and 17 in my range. He's not the best there, but he's not the worst by far. Should they fire him? I'm going to say no, and here's why I'm going to say no. I'm staring at my wall right now, and I have a Tennessee Titan fathead staring at my wall. And I still can't believe the Titans fired Mike Vrabel, and it's been a year later, and I'm still going to feel this way probably 10 years in my future. There has to be some stability. It could be a lot worse. Trust me, it could be a lot worse. You can have the Will Levis fiasco. You can have Brian Callahan not getting plays in and getting delayed games. It could be a lot worse. Like James said, their Steelers are right there. Now's not the time to clean house. Now's the time to make minor changes and make a run for it. So my answer to that is no. Stay the course. And Tennessee, please get Mike Vrabel back.
All right, Coach Garv. What do you got?
Top 10 coach, probably not. I think as we sit here right now, no. If he wins another Super Bowl, he's in the conversation. Should you fire him? No, but that doesn't mean should change not happen. You know what I mean? Things get stale, but I think a better question to ask is, because really nobody knows this, who's making the decisions on personnel? That's, to me, the question to be asked. You know, I mean, the guy's not winning playoff games because of the quarterbacks in his conference, and he doesn't have a quarterback and hasn't in 4 years. And when did Roethlisberger retire? Are we talking 4 or 5?
He retired.
So, again, it's a quarterback-driven league. It's a quarterback-driven league. They don't have one. They're taking second-rate guys, clearly, right, that nobody else wanted. Their original teams wouldn't sign them. One guy got kicked out of town in another place. So, I mean, who's making those decisions? We don't know that. No one knows that. Is it a true GM making those decisions, ownership making that decision? Does he have say in that? You know, who's ever making that decision, that person should be fired first.
Fair enough.
Because they blew it. First round, terrible draft pick. And now they're choosing guys who no one else wants.
That's fair. And for everybody that doesn't know, Kenny Pickett was the backup quarterback who nailed the ball in the Super Bowl for the Eagles. That was a Pittsburgh starter 2 years ago. So just throwing it out there, Kenny Pickett now has a Super Bowl since he left Pittsburgh.
Oh my God! Come on,
Dave. Dave, what do you got on this one, Dave?
So that comment was handpicked to make me incensed because the Cunning McClipboard draft pick was the single biggest FU that Kevin Colbert made on the way out the door. To echo Coach Garvey's comment about the guy that was shopping for the groceries. You really have to go back to pre-arm injury for Ben Roethlisberger before you really had, and it's a quarterback-driven league, like Coach Garvey said. Gosh, stealing some of the thunder for this response. However, if you're talking about a top 10 quarterback of all time, I mean, if you're looking at right now, obviously the answer is no. However, I can remember back in 2004 when they were willing to fire Bill Cowher after a 6-10 season. They drafted Ben Roethlisberger, and all of a sudden they were 15-1 the next season. And the whole franchise was reborn. If Bill Cowher doesn't win Super Bowl, the Super Bowl XL in Detroit, does he go to the Hall of Fame? Probably not. So I don't think that you can really write Tomlin's story without having the whole, without having the whole portfolio here. In addition to that, you want to talk about should they fire Tomlin? I think that there's some changes that need to be made. I have questions about their offensive line coach. being given blue chip prospects and not being able to develop them properly, and guys that he has gotten that have gone on to have success elsewhere. And that tells me that maybe that's part of the problem. If you're going to get rid of Tomlin, you know what? You better have somebody that's going to come in that's going to be electric, and somebody that's going to come in and be really, really good. If you're going to ask that guy to walk out the door, which by the way, 3 days later, he's going to have a job somewhere else if he wants. He could also go on TV and make $1 bazillion too. However, unless you got Sean McVay coming through the door, I'm sorry, there's absolutely no reason to fire Mike Tomlin. Some adjustment with the staff, I get it. But until they get a quarterback, it really doesn't matter anyways. If they re-sign Justin Fields this season and decide to go that route, awesome. I heard today Daniel Jones coming to Pittsburgh. Those aren't guys that are going to be, Super Bowl winning quarterbacks for you. And in a division where you've got 2 other teams that have reasonable quarterbacks and then a hot dumpster fire that's the Browns, I mean, you really have to look at that aspect of it. You don't have a quarterback, you're not going to win in this league. That's for sure.
Which is a great segue into this question. Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers has played a year and 1 game for the Jets and will be cut here eventually. Aaron Rodgers, though, this season threw for 3,897 yards with 28 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. So being a Jets fan and suffering for all 38 years of my life being a Jets fan, this is actually a very historic season for Aaron Rodgers in New York Jets quarterback history, which is pretty pitiful in the grand scheme of things. So Aaron Rodgers wants to return, it seems like, to the NFL. Has Aaron Rodgers tarnished his career by not retiring? And where do you see him playing next year? Because rumor was today it was the Pittsburgh Steelers. Mike, has Aaron Rodgers tarnished his career? And if so, or however you're going to go with this, where is he playing at next year?
In my opinion, he has not tarnished his career. 3,800 yards is a pretty good season for an NFL quarterback. I guess there was talk about him and Daniel Jones going to Cleveland last week. And coach just said, I didn't know that about Daniel Jones maybe going to Pittsburgh, but it wouldn't be the worst quarterback pickup the Browns have made recently, but you know what I mean? But the Jets lost some play. I know Coach Garvey likes the Jets, and
I do.
They lost some close games that were out of his control. I wouldn't say it was Rodgers' fault. And, so I don't know. I don't think his legacy is tarnished. He's still one of the greatest ever, and if he can still play at 42 years old, I'm all for that.
So where do you think he's at next season, Mike? If you had to take a guess.
I have no idea. I just heard talk of Cleveland, and I don't know who's desperate to bring in somebody. The Browns are desperate, but there's probably 5-6 other teams desperate to have somebody, and I just not sure where he's going to end up.
Yeah, the only reason I seen the Steelers thing today was on Get Up this morning. They were talking about if the Steelers don't re-sign Fields, should they sign Rodgers, even though Wilson's 6 years younger. So, JJ, what are your thoughts on what Aaron Rodgers has done? You know, he went 6-12 the past 2 years, missed 15 games with an Achilles injury, and then, had a 5-12 year for the Jets this year. Where's his legacy at right now, and where's he going to be at next season?
I don't think he's tarnished his legacy. I'm big on players playing until they don't want to play anymore. I mean, it's their life. They want to go out there and play till they're 100 years old. Just let them play if they're still able to do it. He's still a very capable quarterback. I mean, I probably see him. He seems like he might end up on the Raiders. Honestly, I'm thinking the Raiders.
Okay.
Please don't come to Pittsburgh. No, I don't want to go to Pittsburgh. We already have enough head cases there.
Drew, what do you got on this one?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of places where he wants, or they say he's going. I think they're saying every spot except the guys that have really good quarterbacks right now. In regards to his legacy, I don't think it's tarnished at all, really. He goes to the Jets on the fourth snap there. He tears his Achilles, doesn't smell the field the whole year. And then this past year, with the disaster that was going on there, firing your coach and all this hearsay, he still had a pretty good year. So you can't say it's tarnished quite yet. I do think this is a huge decision for him, where he wants to go. Like people are saying to go to Tennessee and play for my Titans. That would be the worst thing he can do, because he'll just ride off into the sunset in Nashville. If I'm Aaron Rodgers, I'm sitting down with whoever I sit down with, and I'm asking myself 3 questions. Could I win there? Is it indoors? And do I have a good defense? And I think the answer to all 3 of those is the Minnesota Vikings. Sam Darnold's going to be leaving. He's going to get his cash elsewhere. J.J. McCartney, is he ready yet? Probably not. So follow the Brett Favre footprint. Go to Minnesota, play in a dome. You have stability. You have good weapons. You have a good defense. And there you go.
And the Jets were such a dumpster fire. Robert Saleh was such a good defensive coordinator and terrible head coach, and that just happens. And Joe Douglas should be banished from the NFL as the worst general manager in NFL history. And it was pretty bad. He was pretty. He was right up there with Matt Millen as a terrible GM. That was pretty bad. All right, Coach Garv,
you gotta put blame on the owner.
To an extent, yeah, and Woody's not great either.
If Jerry Jones wasn't in this league, he'd be the worst owner in football.
I would agree with you on that. I would agree.
Only because he can't get out of his way because he refuses to shut his mouth.
Yeah,
there are other owners.
I would agree with you. I would definitely, but we could have a whole episode on why the Jets are a dumpster fire. And that could last like 6 hours. So, Coach Garvey, you're the quarterback whisperer. You've coached Ryan Fitzpatrick. You've coached record setters across
he did not tarnish his legacy. Has not tarnished his legacy. If he does not resign and does decide to retire, all we're going to say is he hung on too long. You can't take his stats away. You can't take that period of where he may have been that little 5-year, probably 6-year span, may be the best quarterback ever to play the game. He's got that little career there. It just wasn't a long time compared to what we're seeing out of other people, i.e. Tom Brady, i.e. probably Patrick Mahomes, and those types of people. But he is just as good as anyone probably who's ever played the game, because what he can do with his feet, that Achilles clearly is a problem for him because he cannot attack the line of scrimmage like he used to, for sure. Where is he going? God bless it. I don't know. Minnesota's very interesting. Minnesota's very, very interesting. Like you said, Drew, the Raiders make sense, but I don't see him and Pete Carroll being on the same page personally.
You know what, though? They're both so hippie-like, and they want to be surfers, and
but they're different hippie.
Yeah, that's true.
They're different.
That is true. Aaron Rodgers is like, I'm going to meditate in a tent.
Aaron Rodgers is just a weird dude.
He's a weird dude. I would agree with you on that. He wants to go into a tent and have hot coals around, and
if social media wasn't around and TV shows, I don't think we would have a conversation about him tarnishing his legacy and everything. But I think there's enough hatred because of the world we live in where people want to hate him so bad because of the things he says, and they take it personally.
Okay, that's fair. And for everybody that doesn't know, and I was saying this earlier, Coach Garvey coached Ryan Fitzpatrick at Harvard. Shout out Coach Garvey, having that connection. And special shout out to Coach Garvey's good friend, Dan Quinn, on another spectacular season as a head coach, taking 2 teams to the playoffs, something Mike Tomlin has never done. So
only been a head coach for 1 team.
Right. But no, in all seriousness,
he hasn't
Dave,
been
you're,
fine.
Dave, you're
2 teams.
That we'll see. Dave, you're a former head coach at the high school level. You're an offensive line coach. Now at the high school level. Where I want to get your opinion on this. Where is this Aaron Rodgers thing falling? Did he tarnish his career? Was it the offensive line for the Jets? What was it exactly? And where's he at next year?
John, I feel like you've been taking some of Aaron Rodgers' ayahuasca with your hatred for Mike Tomlin. I'll tell you this. if you dig down at Aaron Rodgers' numbers a little bit further this season, his last 5 games this year, he was excellent. But that's the equivalent of hitting, a home run when you're down 7 in the 7th inning. He put a lot of garbage time numbers up this year, which is great if you play fantasy football. But it wasn't, they were in games that were relatively meaningless. I think that as long as Aaron Rodgers' talent outpaced his personality, he was fine. However, I think the other one is caught up to the other. I think Aaron Rodgers next year will not be playing in the NFL. Aaron Rodgers will be a full-time contributor to the Pat McAfee show. Teams have been really turned off by that. That's something that he really wanted to do and something he really wants to continue to do. And he's going to try to jump on this whole Jason Kelce, Travis Kelce, the whole podcast, creating a sort of outside of the game revenue stream to continue long after the game of football goes. I mean, it used to be guys would retire and they'd have to go like into the booth to make any money. And now, this isn't Dan Marino with isotoner gloves. I mean, these guys can go and make real money here. And I think that Aaron Rodgers, to answer your question, has he tarnished his legacy? I think the garbage time numbers that he put up in the last 5 weeks of the season sort of rescue that this year. They can blame the Achilles for the previous season. However, if he goes somewhere else, particularly to one of these also ran teams like the Raiders, it's going to be all fine and good. He's going to get paid, but it's really, it'll look poor. This is Franco Harris playing for the Seahawks. This is, his best bet is to just latch on to McAfee and ride that rocket ship to retirement.
Okay. And which leads me into, this, because we talked about it too. And, you're talking about legacies and coaches and this and that. Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry run the dumpster fire Cleveland Browns. And it is a dumpster fire. During the time that they've been there since the Watson trade, Watson is 9-10 as a starter. The Browns are 20-31 as an organization with 1 playoff appearances in 3 years, led by Joe Flacco. In the meantime, the Houston Texans, because of the trade with them, inherited 10 players, 5 of which are starters, 5 of which are backups, plus the defensive rookie of the year a few years ago, Will Anderson, and Baker Mayfield has went on to take the Buccaneers to back-to-back playoff appearances and back-to-back division titles. Who is more at fault for the Browns? You can't blame Jimmy Haslam. Is it Andrew Berry or Stefanski, or should they both be equally to blame? Mike?
Before I attempt to answer that, Fitty, the Browns have never recovered since they fired Marty Schottenheimer in 1988, in my opinion. And also, we've never thrown this out. Marty Schottenheimer took 3 different teams to the playoffs, won division titles with 3 different teams, and almost a 4th team. I just want to throw that out there, Fitty. All right, next. I don't know who made the decision to bring Watson in. I don't know if it was a collaboration between the GM and Stefanski and Haslam, all 3 of them. But they set up Houston for the future and really crushed the Browns for the next several years. So I can't really answer it. It's like Coach Garvey was saying earlier, like, who made the decisions? We don't know. I still don't know. I'm assuming Stefanski is still there because he didn't want to bring Watson in. And he's not getting the wrath or the blame for that, but who knows? So I can't. It's just a mess right now. I don't know how to answer anything really about the Browns right now.
Well, the thing is, you can't fire the owner, as we know as Jets fans, with Woody there. So somebody got to pay the piper with the Browns. Should it be Stefanski, or should it be Berry, or should it be both? JJ, what's your thoughts on the Browns?
Man, hot dumpster fire. They probably both should be fired. Whoever made the decision, that Deshaun Watson trade decision, is just crazy, because they were on their way up with Mayfield and they were building around him, and they were on their way up, and then they just totally just cut their legs out from under him when they made that trade. Like, I don't know what they're even going to do for the future. Like, they're just going to be the Browns for as long as I'm alive, probably. So yeah, they both can be fired.
And the thing is, because of that trade, you also have the ripple effect of Myles Garrett now wanting to leave and even costing them more talent going out the door.
They can save it. So they trade Myles Garrett, but whoever they trade him to, they say you have to take Watson too. That's part of the deal. so they can save it.
That's interesting. That is definitely interesting. Drew, what's your take on this? Barry, Stefanski, or both?
Yeah, I'm not a Browns fan, but I know a lot of people that are, and I know a lot of my Browns fans when that trade went down were probably the happiest people in the world. To say they are now, not so much, but is what it is. Yeah, if you're gonna fire one of the two, you're probably gonna say Barry. You got to look what Kevin Stefanski has done in his tenure with the Browns. He's 2 playoff appearances, a playoff win. I mean, when was the last time a Browns can say anything of that nature at all? And he's done it twice with 2 different quarterbacks, almost probably 2 different teams. I know as a Titans fan, I would love stability. I know Browns, that's one thing they do need is stability. So you can't get rid of their head coach that has taken 2 different teams like that and made the playoffs twice. You got to stay pat with him. He knows how to do it. He's done it. And if you're going to fire one of the 2, it's hard to even say Barry. I know it's a bad trade, but all these GMs make bad trades. He's brought a lot of good talent into Cleveland. Like I said, it's something they haven't seen in a long time. So if you had to pick one, you probably pick Barry, and you just ride with Stefanski until he says no, because he's brought you there.
Okay. Coach Garv, what's your opinion on this?
Yeah, I think it's Barry, right? Even though he has brought in some talent, but it's not about the talent. Like, what? Obviously, Deshaun Watson, bring him in. You're saying that guy's talented, but it was the money piece of it where it was a really bad decision. Myles Garrett's their only savior, right? They need to trade his ass and get a lot of capital for him and start over. They have no choice to me, right? I mean, they are not. You got to look at that as they're almost a 2-year project. Really 1 year, because if you get enough capital out of Myles Garrett, you can flip it.
Sure. Okay, Dave, what's your opinion on this?
The Cleveland Browns are a team of tragedy. They wasted the career of Hall of Famer Joe Thomas. They have wasted the career of Nick Chubb. They are wasting the career of Myles Garrett. Baker Mayfield did nothing but try to play through a season with a separated shoulder and gut it out for the team. And what did they do? They ran him out of town. That's unforgivable. Like, it's a situation where, talking to Browns fans in that offseason was, the Steelers were in a shopping for a quarterback as well. And it was, hey, cool, we're interested, but let's not mortgage the farm. Well, not only did the Browns mortgage the farm in the terms of draft capital with number 1 draft picks and number 2 draft picks and number 3 draft picks, they also mortgaged the farm by with his suspension, putting off all of that money into guaranteed money. They're on the hook for the next 2 seasons for $72 million against the cap. That means literally 1/5 of your cap approximately is going to be dedicated to a guy who's not going to contribute to your team. Now, if they get him on this dancing thing is part of his recovery, and they can recover a little bit of it perhaps next year, then he's only a $45 million cap hit or something like that. But at the end of the day, this is the worst trade, doubled down with the worst contract in professional sports history. The Cleveland Browns are a team of tragedy. And I'm going to be honest. I mean, what's their best bet? It was Flacco. Now it's what, Kirk Cousins to come in and rescue the franchise. They have some pieces and parts around them, but the Browns are in for another, what? Coach Garvey, you said 2 years. No, they're 5-6 years away from being relevant again. And it's going to take a lottery ticket at quarterback in order to make it happen. It's sad for the people of Cleveland. Like, they deserve better than this. The Browns fans are loyal. They show up in the Muni lot every week. And so what are the Browns going to do? They're going to continue to suck, and they're going to try to move the team to Berea and build a dome. Like, who's in charge of this? The broad from Major League? Like, it's the absolute worst idea ever.
All right.
Coach.
Now, next one.
Coach,
Next.
now you really
Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
Now he's really got me depressed after that.
All right. The next one is just a yes or no answer. Will Mike McCarthy be a head coach again in 2026? Mike?
Not 2025. You said 2026?
In 2026, yes.
I'm not sure, but I'll say no.
Okay. JJ?
Yes.
All right. Drew?
Probably not, but he should.
Okay. Coach Garv?
Yes.
All right. Coach Frank?
Absolutely.
Okay. I think he will too. He said he was going to sit out this year. He's Super Bowl winning coach out there. Could be somebody for the Browns. Could be somebody for the Steelers if they do decide to go with Tom, away from Tomlin. Could be a lot of guys. Giants. You could fit out a lot of different places. Titans. All right. 2 questions left. And I think they're the big ones a lot of people talked about. So speaking of the Cowboys, they were linked to Deion Sanders in the offseason. Now, Deion Sanders coached, the past few years at the college level. Should Deion Sanders have been the Cowboys' next head coach? Now, before you answer that, think of this. He's going to have 2 out of the top 5 draft picks at Colorado go in the NFL draft. 2 out of the top 5. He went 8-4 and got crushed by the Stormin' Mormons of BYU in a bowl game, who's not forecasted to have 1 player drafted in the first 4 rounds. Should Deion Sanders have been the Cowboys' next head coach? Mike?
This is cut and dry for me, and I'm biased. I'm saying no. Marty Schottenheimer's son, Brian. I'm a Schottenheimer guy. Cut and dry. That's it.
All right, JJ, what are your thoughts? Should Deion Sanders have been the next head coach of the Cowboys?
My personal opinion, no. But if Jerry Jones really wanted him to sell tickets and everything, because Jerry doesn't care about winning anymore, he just wants to make money, then yes.
That's valid. That is valid. They would have made a lot of money off of that. Drew, what's your opinion? Should, Deion Sanders, losing 4 games, 2 top 5 NFL draft picks, getting annihilated in the bowl game, should he have been the Cowboys head coach?
I tell you, I can't get over the Stormin' Mormons. That's hilarious. I don't know where you came up with that one.
No one's ever heard of the Stormin' Mormons?
I don't know. Probably not. There's probably a lot more guys that are qualified for it, but his name playing there did what he did there. This relationship with Jerry Jones carries some weight. I don't know how far it got. I don't even know if they interviewed or what have you. I would say no, but if they did do it, I think that stadium would explode of excitement.
I think if Deion can win maybe 10 or 12 games or a national championship over the next couple years consecutively, have some success like that, I think he can make a nice transition to the NFL, but just not right now. Coach Garv, what's your opinion?
No.
That's pretty cut and dry. What about you, Coach Frank?
Yeah, he's all hat and no cattle. When you're talking about Deion Sanders, there's only one place where that would work, and that's a place where the show is the show, and that's Las Vegas. And that's if he would have went to the Raiders and instead of Pete Carroll, and then drafted his son, and they would have taken their show on the road just down the highway from Colorado to Vegas. Dallas is the offensive players on that staff, almost to a man, were excited that Schottenheimer was going to be the new guy. And is it the perfect hire? Absolutely not. But every once in a while that works out for you. And again, until Jerry Jones steps out of the steps away as a general manager, that also is going to continue to be a dumpster fire. They're paying $65 million to Dak Prescott to be the guy.
Yeah, and I think, I do think, like I said, he'll be in a couple years away. I think, to me, if there is going to be a hot shot college coach making the leap in the near future, in my opinion, I think it's going to be Dan Lanning from Oregon. That's just my opinion on that. last question. We're going to round it out with this, and the big question. There was a lot of talk, a lot of excitement, yet a lot of flack behind Josh Allen winning the MVP this year. I personally thought Barkley was the MVP of the league. Mike, in your opinion, did the NFL get this right with Josh Allen? Was he the MVP, or should someone else have gotten it? And my vote went to Barkley. Mike, what's your opinion?
I never really came up with an MVP. I thought there were about 4 guys. The Ravens quarterback, Allen, Barkley, even Joe Burrows, even though the Bengals didn't make the playoffs. So I could have lived with any of those guys being named with it. So no controversy for me.
Okay. JJ, what about you? What was your thoughts about Josh Allen getting the MVP? Should he have got it? Should somebody else got it? What do you think?
My personal opinion, Barkley should have got it, but it's a quarterback award now. So it's between him and Lamar Jackson. And so Lamar Jackson had the better numbers. So I know they were probably fatigued of him winning it. So they just gave it to Allen just to have somebody different. So technically, I think Lamar Jackson should have won, but I understand why they did it. But yeah.
Okay. Drew, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I hate this MVP stuff. I really don't pay any attention to it. Josh Allen had a good year. I guess he's going to get it. It's how they value it, how they look at it, and if they're going based off numbers, I guess he was one of the tops. Saquon's up there as well. But my MVP is the center for the Philadelphia Eagles who takes the beating when they do the tush push every day.
Coach Garv, I want to get your opinion on this, because for people that don't know, Coach Garv, again, coaching some of the most prolific offenses in Bethany history, from the McLaughlin days of him running the ball to him going into a passer, to Eric Walker, to Lincoln Reyes, the many different changes. And Coach Garvey, you've coached quarterbacks with a ton of different skill sets. Was Josh Allen the MVP of this year, or should it have went to somebody else?
It's a good question. Now, he's certainly valid of that MVP, because you take him off that team, they lose games. Plain and simple. The question I think you have to ask is, if you take the next best guy and put him on the Eagles and hand him the ball, do they still win games? And I think the answer to that question is probably yes, compared to replacing Josh Allen. So therefore, I think it's right to that degree. Can Barkley win it? Sure. He almost rushed for 2,000 yards and really probably should have, but the world we live in, you can't get that guy hurt because he is that valuable. So maybe that answers the question that he is the most valuable player, because they didn't play him.
Okay.
I don't think there's either right or wrong answer, but I think if you take Josh Allen out of that lineup, they lose games. I think, and no matter who they replace him with, even if they replace him with the next best guy, right? I just think it's different. That dynamic position is different. If you replace the running back, can they still win games with the next best guy? And I think the answer to that question is yes, because it's just a different dynamic.
Okay. And Coach
because
Garv,
of the 5 guys in front of them.
We did talk about that on the Super Bowl preview show. Could the Eagles still have made it without Barkley or not? It was a pretty interesting topic on that. So, Dave, your opinion, being an O-line guy. All right. I want to hear this. Is Josh Allen deserving of the MVP, or should have went to somebody else?
So I think that the NFL needs to more clearly define the criteria for naming their MVP, because you have Saquon Barkley who wins the offensive player of the year, but not the MVP. So I mean, is he not a player also? I think that it's a guy like Saquon's penalized because he's on such a talented roster with the Eagles. A guy like Lamar, whose passing numbers, if you look at them, are nobody's ever had those passing numbers and not won the MVP. And oh, by the way, if you look at his rushing numbers, he also was a Pro Bowl running back within that same criteria. So for me personally, if it's Lamar and Josh Allen, it was Lamar. Josh Allen won it because they viewed him as the most valuable cog on his team. But I'm going to argue, if that's the argument that you're going to make, the Bills roster as it's currently composed is far greater than the person who should have been the MVP, if that's the criteria you're using, and that's Jaden Daniels. Because the Commanders were absolutely terrible. Daniels came in, totally flipped that roster upside down. Did so with only one legitimate receiver in Terry McLaurin and an old man in Zach Ertz. The defense was, okay, but if you're comparing apples to apples here, Allen versus Daniels, I think it should have been Daniels. So my one vote would have been Lamar, but if you're looking at it, most valuable person to their team, I think Daniels was more valuable to the Commanders versus Allen to the Bills.
Okay, that's valid. Now we're going to have one bonus question for everybody out there. Mike, game is on the line. 2 minutes and 30 seconds to go. You got to go 90 yards for the winning touchdown. No timeouts, but you got the 2-minute warning. You got Mahomes, John Elway, or Joe Montana. You just got to pick one of them. No explanation. Who you picking? 2:30 to go. No timeouts, 90 yards, game-winning touchdown. You need it. Joe Montana, John Elway, Patrick Mahomes.
Montana.
Okay, JJ, who are you taking?
Taking Montana.
Okay, Drew?
John Elway.
Okay, Coach Garv?
Mahomes.
Okay, Coach Frank?
Ben Roethlisberger. Wait, that wasn't one of the options. Montana.
Who'd you say, Coach Frank?
Joe Montana.
Okay. I was just thinking of that too. And, Mike, I know John Elway ripped your heart out on 2 different occasions in the 80s.
I was
so
I was at the game in the dog pound during the drive.
So I will say one of the more underrated quarterbacks of the lifetime of a lot of us is John Elway. So 5-time Super Bowl starter, second most Super Bowl appearances ever as a starter behind Tom Brady. Joe Montana and Terry Bradshaw, second most winning Super Bowl quarterbacks in NFL history. So that was a lot of fun, guys. Thank you so much for coming on and talking about the NFL recap season and diving into some stats and some rants and everything in between. But it was a very exciting 2024 season that is now over, and now we prepare for the draft. And we'll see what happens. To Mike, JJ, Coach Garv, Drew, and Dave, thank you so much for coming on and making this episode of the Ride Home Rants another special one. So to all of our listeners out there, whether you're old and new, make sure you're telling everyone about the podcast, because I bet they like the show even a little bit more than you, because we're the hottest thing out there. So this is Fitty, and we will see you next week.
The Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by W Energy. Energy drinks made for gamers, streamers, and podcasters alike. For gamers, streamers, and podcasters alike. Go to the link in the description where you can find the best energy drinks out there. Less caffeine than a cup of coffee. Also, no jitters and no crash afterwards. Use the promo code Mike Bono and get yourself 10% off. Also, the Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by my favorite sponsor of the show, and that is Shankit Golf. Golf apparel made for the everyday golfer. We might not go out and shoot a 6 under par. We're probably going to shoot a 6 over par, but this is going to give us the gear that's going to help us rock it on and off of the course. Go to the link in the bio, use the promo code Mike Bono, and get yourself 10% off there as well.